Hello everybody, Johnny here. Welcome back to Aftermath, where we discuss the impact the game has had on me after playing it on the channel. As always, you can find the playthrough on the channel. I hope you'll consider checking that out. But we're gonna talk about how it plays, how it looks, how it sounds, so let's get into it. So Subnautica is a survival, exploration and base building game. You essentially crash land into an alien planet and are left to your own devices to figure things out around you and survive. And there's actually a really cool sci-fi plot going on here, something that really elevates this game and differentiates it from other survival titles in my opinion, is that in the end you're left with this great sense of accomplishment and the story has a really nice sense of closure to it. As always, let's talk about gameplay first. Now, you jump into this world after a very short introduction, and with very minimal tutorials, you gotta figure out what you can eat, what you can drink, because guess what? You only have 2 granola bars to work with, and those run out pretty soon. So, you gotta figure out what you can eat, how you can craft water, all that kind of stuff. You then quickly start to figure out what resources are useful, where you can find them, how you can craft. You have access to a very small life pod with a fabricator unit that allows you to craft stuff. So very soon you're gonna be figuring out what you can craft, what you need to craft, and what you need to move deeper. And that's when the real game begins. You start to find blueprints to really cool devices that allow you to go ever deeper, and of course that means you're gonna be encountering ever scarier creatures, ever bigger creatures, and you're gonna have to find your way around them. You're essentially a scientist, so don't think you're gonna be battling alien monsters like a proper soldier. You're gonna be trying to avoid them, outsmart them, and just outmaneuver them in general. And of course, as you go deeper, you encounter more useful resources that will allow you to build really cool stuff. I'm purposely not gonna give any footage, any hints of what you can build, but I'm just gonna say there are some awesome vehicles that you can build in this game. And of course, with those resources, we can build amazing bases. I really think they nailed that aspect of the game as well. And because running around gathering resources is so goddamn enjoyable, I constantly found myself with a surplus of resources that really allowed me to just explore the base building aspects of the game. I think some other games really shot themselves in the foot by trying to make the base building too complicated. Think Fallout 4. Despite being a great game, the base building did not work that well. The objects did not connect properly at times. It was very hard for things to latch together in place. Not the case here. The connections are simple, but they work really well, and everything connects and looks very solid when put together. I also really enjoyed how the surfaces looked in all of the structures, something almost clinical about their appearance. And as you gain access to better vehicles, you gain access to deeper and scarier areas. You might find yourself driving down this bottomless, complete pitch black area where sounds are the only guide for you. Get ready for jump scares. And so, in your travels, you'll come across many predators. Quite quickly, you'll figure out the hierarchy, which you should really avoid, and which you can simply fight off with your trusty knife. As you learn how to navigate the different enemies in the game, you will also learn that you are infected with a life-threatening virus, and you need to find a cure for it. Therefore, you have a goal. You gotta explore the planet in search of a cure. Brief radio communications give glints of hope that there might be a rescue mission on the way, or that there might be a way out of the planet for you. All of these elements together gave for over 70 hours of incredibly enjoyable gameplay. And the last thing I'll mention here is that the map is not actually randomly generated, as is the case for many other games in the genre. It is instead carefully crafted, and in my opinion they did a great job at that. The exploration was consistently surprising and consistently enjoyable. One consequence of this though is that they have the edge of map situation to handle, and I think they actually did it quite gracefully. The way they handled it is they call it the dead zone, where I won't go into too much spoilers, but there's only death and destruction. It's a pitch black area, and once you enter it, it is quite clear that you're supposed to not be there. Alright, so let's talk about graphics next. The first time I jumped into the game, I was already amazed about just how well the water was made and the reflections of the light. When you're underwater, looking above, amazing. When you're above the surface, looking at how the light is reflecting on the surface, also incredible. It almost seems to me like they had an amazing water engine going, and they said, hey, let's take that and build a game on top of it. I think they just nailed the feeling of swimming through water, and I lost myself. Just endless hours, picking up resources and exploring. There's also a remarkable duality in all of the areas due to the day-night cycle. While, for example, some areas might be a little bit timid at day, they might light up at night with bulbs and different fauna lighting up and their particle effects mingling with the water and interacting in really interesting ways. However, it is not perfect, and you'll encounter some consistent issues with draw distance and texture pop-ins, and that might take you out of the experience enough for it to be a deal breaker for you. If that's not the case, however, the game is a looker. There's no way around it. One other graphical issue I encountered is sometimes objects will phase into one another, so perhaps in your base you might see a fish phasing through the hull and you're like, what? Aside from that though, it is a great graphical experience. All of the flora and fauna were incredible, the predators look menacing and convincing, and the world is just breathtaking. And last but not least, sound, and this is a key part of the experience. You'll be completely immersed in the game if you play with headphones, and every little fish crashing against your hull will completely jump scare you. And this is one of the things that actually annoyed me a little bit, but that's just because I was so completely in tension at all times. And because audio directionality is well executed here, you can actually rely on audio cues to avoid threats, because many times you won't be able to see things coming due to the nature of the cockpit. The peripheral vision won't always be what you'd like it to be, and I think this is on purpose to give you that sense of dread. The one negative I'll mention here is that the music, even though it's actually quite good, it's a little bit too on the nose at times, and I wish it would back off a little bit and let the environmental sounds take over. With that said though, the creature sounds are really well executed, and you got some epic roars that really let you know that guy means business. And finally, my personal experience with the game. I gotta admit, I was caught completely off guard by this game. I did not expect to enjoy it that much. In fact, initially I was just planning to do a short let's look at series on it, but I just embarked into this journey and could not stop. I just had to keep going, had to find out where it ended. And man, this game had an epic conclusion to it. At the very end I had an overwhelming sense of achievement, accomplishment, and closure. Very few games have given me this kind of neatly wrapped package of an experience. In closing, if you enjoy exploration and survival games, this is one of the most polished and kind of complete as a package experiences that I've had in the genre. So as you may know from my other reviews, I like to rate games with the urgency with which you should pick them up. I think that numerical scores or price statements are always going to be relative to different people, but the one commodity we share is time, specifically a limited amount of time to devote into the games we love. And so, is this game worth spending your free time right now? Next up, when you can, or don't bother. This is a right now game. If you enjoy survival and exploration games, what are you doing? Go pick up the game. Perhaps consider checking my playthrough on the channel. And as always, thanks for watching. Catch you next time.